let's talk red carpet, because TIFF is coming up, and
Right.
I love TIFF and I love a good red carpet. I post about almost all of them always. And so to me, when I think about, one of the reasons I love red carpets is because I love fashion, and I think about the designers that dress a lot of the talent, and how that matters, to the design house, and how that trickles down to retail and style and all of that stuff. So maybe I'll kick it off by saying, and I'll make it come full circle, Zach Posen. Okay. Love Zach Posen. Zach Posen used to, I think, design some of the most amazing dresses on the red carpet. Zach Posen is now the creative director at The Gap. And, my love for The Gap these days, and I think it's because of Zach Posen. Or think of that red carpet moment. Remember when Sharon Stone wore a Gap shirt on the red carpet with a beautiful sequin skirt, but her shirt was The Gap. And so I just feel like the red carpet influences so much of what happens at retail, and obviously with TIFF coming up. And is there a celebrity that you are excited to see on the red carpet?
I love watching the red carpet, and it's so different because I see things so differently to you. Like, I know that you have been really successful in terms of red carpet moments. I know that you do a lot around TIFF. I know that you work a lot with the celebrities. You've had great influence in events that you've done, all surrounding red carpet moments. And I look at TIFF so differently. So I don't look at the individual influencer or celebrity attending, but I think to myself, all of the business behind TIFF is massive. Like, it's made to look really streamless and beautiful. But for me, I'm like, the business that it brings in, from the makeup artists to the hotel rooms to all the limos that are hired to the TV producers who gets the rights to film TIFF, who, like, all of the work that goes into it. Like, I mean, I would probably love to ask you a little bit about that, because this is your moment, and you shine really when it comes to TIFF.
Well, I think it brings in, and I need to double check this figure, but I think it's like around $300 million that it injects into the local economy.
Wow.
And so that figure might actually be higher, but you look at like all the hospitality, you look at, to your point, the limo drivers, the
influx of business, the flights
makeup
that fly here,
artists, and although a lot of them do bring in their makeup artists, but like it brings in so much industry. And I think that's why actually last year when Bell dropped out of being a sponsor and Rogers did come in, but the government did give TIFF $17 million in funding.
The PR spend on Canada, I mean, the PR noise on Canada around TIFF is like so important, because people come in specifically during that time. It's the summer, they come to Canada, they visit, they come to Toronto specifically to be engaged in the hype.
Well, it's the second largest film festival in the world, and I would say...
I never knew that.
Yeah,
that's
it
crazy.
is. And actually the biggest public festival, because Cannes is the first, but it's not a public festival, whereas here it's where I think a lot of filmmakers get the reaction that they sort of need. Because the films aren't necessarily always finished when you get to see them here. And so they get the reaction that they need from the public, and then they finish them up, and then they make their debut.
You speak a lot about fashion, and you're very in the know when it comes to that, and you're very stylish yourself, I have to say. I mean, do you think that this moment is like a pivotal moment for a new designer?
I think the fashion world is changing so much right now, because it used to be like, look at Karl Lagerfeld. Like, he was at Chanel for 20 years, like just a very long time. And you're seeing so much movement in the fashion space. Like, you look at Mathieu Blaise, who was at Bottega, but he wasn't there that long. He was there long enough to kind of help them pivot. But now he's going over to Chanel. And then you look at Demna, who was at Balenciaga, and now he's over at Gucci. And so you're just seeing so much change in the fashion world. And I think part of it is they burn out because there's so many collections. It used to be that you'd have 4 collections, and now I think you have like 12. I think Chanel has 8 or 10.
Wow.
So there's so many collections, and I think these creative directors kind of burn out. And I think also Kering and a lot of these main the houses, the companies that own these brands, they don't give it they don't want to give a creative director time. They need to see an influx of revenue coming in right away. And if that doesn't happen instantly, then they fire them.
How do you, I mean, you've worked a lot of these red carpets. You have really a fantastic portfolio of experience when it comes to this. So how do you see young designers getting a name on the red carpet? Because that is really quite a strong moment for them to, get some sort of recognition in media.
Well, it seems like they're getting the recognition and they've become an overnight success. But I'll give you an example. So one of my favorite Canadian brands is a brand called Greta Constantine.
Okay.
And I love Kirk. I think he's such a great designer. But I've known Kirk for, let's say, 20 years. And so to see Greta Constantine on so many red carpets and on so many celebrities, like Julia Roberts, Jennifer Lopez, like you name it, like he has now dressed all of these celebrities for a red carpet.
That's amazing.
And it kind of seems like, wow, he's an overnight success, but he's not, because I've watched him work his ass off.
And gradually
Over
become more
20 years.
successful.
So when you say that a red carpet sort of, changes or, like creates this moment, it's like a series of moments over decades that actually has created that impact.
I have a story actually, which is the complete opposite. Like, it involves a very big celebrity actually, and she was on the red carpet and she was signed to a particular cosmetic agency and company. And on the red carpet, one of the people were interviewing her and said, "Oh, what's in your handbag? Show us what's in your handbag." And she pulled out a product that was unrelated to the cosmetic company that she was signed to, and her contract ended within a year. Like, they pulled her, because I feel like that's a major faux pas to make, I think, as a publicist or as a manager or as a talent owner or someone who is coordinating these celebrities. Like,
Well, the publicist wasn't doing their job, because what the publicist should have done is just made sure everything that is in her bag actually.
100%.
And if you're doing an endorsement deal, you also want to make sure that they're using all of those products, not just publicly,
Authentically.
but it has to be authentic. And we talked about that earlier.
Yes.
And I just feel like that's probably a miss on the publicist's part, but that's also a miss on the talent's part, because do you need someone to manage you to that extent, or should you make sure that you're actually using the product that you're promoting, that you're telling people that you love?
I mean, you've done a lot of these red carpets. Do you find that there are mistakes that happen nowadays, or do you feel like they've all been worked through over the years?
No, I think they happen. And I think they happen partially, honestly, because of lack of authenticity. I think that's the issue. I think that if that were like a really authentic partnership, then she would be living and breathing the brand a little bit more. And so I do think that happens probably even more than it used to, because I also think talent needs to be managed now more than ever before, because they're doing so much. They have to create like social media content, and they have to walk a red carpet, and they have to do all these videos and content before the red carpet. And there's just so much happening and so much that's expected of them, that I think that things, if you're not being authentic, will fall through the cracks.
Do you think these celebrities love doing red carpets, like based on your...
No, I think they hate them. I think they recognize, though, that they're necessary. So you look at the Cannes Film Festival that happened, and all the rules and regulations and the restrictions that were put on the red carpet, and what celebrities
they've
could
changed
wear.
them now a lot, actually.
Absolutely. I saw Halle Berry. She was wearing this very conservative Chanel little suit jacket and skirt, and I thought she looked beautiful. And I was kind of happy to see that, because often what happens on the red carpet is that it's more about the effect. It's like the shock factor. And I kind of love the fact that we brought back a sense of glamour almost, as opposed to let's show as much skin as possible. Let's actually be more glamorous and a little bit clothed up.
I think a lot of people don't necessarily know like what happens on the background when it comes to these red carpets, and you see photographers all the time taking pictures and they post them to The Wire, and I've often had to explain to, for example, my mom, or explain to like some of my friends who are not in the industry. They may be accountants or they may be lawyers, so they're just not exposed to that, and they look at it through very different eyes. But I think one of the strongest business elements is that these photographers that all take pictures, they get to sell these pictures on The Wire, and the highest bidder can pay up to $1 million for a picture of a celebrity.
Well, that's
It's
part
huge
of it.
business.
But the other part of it is, think of the celebrity. Those pictures live on forever and
Yes.
ever and ever. So you need to make sure that you absolutely look your best. Like, because if there's ever, anytime that they're going to pull a photo, those are the photos that they're going to pull. And so that's really important, from a celebrity and a brand standpoint as well.
And again, The Wire is a very interesting thing. A great example is if you ever watch the movie Notting Hill, where
I love Notting
where she is inside the house and all the photographers are banging at the door, and Julia Roberts opens the door and it's a bad picture of her, and she slams the door, and he's like, "Why are you so upset?" And she says, "Well, this picture will be printed in tomorrow's newspapers and it will live on forever." And he's like, "No, it won't. They'll throw it in the bin." And she's like, "No, it will live on The Wire forever. It will be there forever. Every time you Google my name, it will be there forever. Like, you can't escape it." And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand about communications, is that when these photographers take these pictures, they go on these wire services and they can be pulled up on the internet anytime. So you make a good point about being the best, looking the best, having the best team on the red carpet.
Yeah, because if you're on the best dress list, that's awesome. But if you make the worst dress list, that's going to get pulled up all the time. So you want to make sure. And I think it's created a huge business for stylists, right? You look at you look at Leslie Fremar, who I love, or Kate Young, who's amazing. Like, you look at some of these, or Carla Welsh, like these incredible stylists that are styling them, but they'll also work with the creative director to create the specific look just for that celebrity. And
how far in advance do they start to plan?
Oh, I think it's 9 months in advance, 8 months in advance. I mean, you don't know if your film's going to get into these festivals, so I think that might be a little bit more quick. But I think you're working with a lot of these creative directors, as early as you can.
What would you say is the highlight for you when it comes to TIFF?
I mean, I love all of it. I love the energy. I love the energy it brings to the city. I do really appreciate how it injects our economy and just
yes, the business
gets
side of it for
everybody
me
busy.
is what I think about
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, I do really appreciate that. And I love that, Toronto turns into Hollywood North. Like, I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles, and I see sort of the energy that you have there. And it's nice to see some of that here. And I love to be able to showcase our city to a lot of the celebrities. And we do partnerships with People Magazine and Entertainment Weekly. And it's nice to be able to work closely with a lot of these brands in Toronto, in our city.
I actually have never been to TIFF, to be honest, which is really
Well, I'm taking you this year. Oh my God.
Well, I always am like, what am I going to wear? Because, I'm not like a big fashionista. And of course, I like to wear black all the time. But the excitement is insane. And I think that it generates a lot of media and earned media value, not only for celebrities, but also for agencies that find an opportunity to create talkability during this time with their products and brands.
Well, and we raise a lot of money. I think, Artists for Peace and Justice, we started an event during the film festival. It was in 2009, 2010. And we used it as an opportunity to raise as much money as we could for Haiti. Fast forward, 16 years later,
Wow,
we've raised
that's a good
$36 million, right? And
Wow.
but that's because we took the attention that happens during TIFF. We looked at all the celebrities that come in during TIFF, and we were like, okay, how do we utilize that to shine a spotlight on a cause that is really meaningful and matters? And so I think it's an opportunity to actually channel that energy in a really positive way.
How do you choose these causes, though?
It was, to me, I was made aware of the situation in Haiti back then, before the earthquake had hit, that, children are dying of malnutrition and people were living on $1 a day. And I wasn't even sure where Haiti was, but it's the other side of the Dominican and 2 hours away from Miami.
Right.
And when I sort of realized that, I was like, wow, why are we okay with that? And so that was the first fundraiser, and I hadn't been to Haiti at that point yet. The earthquake happened. I had gone to Haiti, and I was in it because I just thought we need to help do something about what's going on here.
That's an interesting thing for me, because I feel like when we look at the celebrity sphere and we look at this world, which is like untouchable for a lot of us, that we never get to have the exposure to, but yet there are people who want to do something and give back. And I think a lot of the time they're not given that credibility. So, for example, when I think about TIFF and I think about, the fashion side of it, and the styling side, and the red carpet, and the glitz and the glamour, they actually come together to do something really important, which
They do, and
which we don't talk about enough.
No, and you look at, like, part of the reason I got involved, I remember with APJ, was Sean Penn was one of the first people that like went to Haiti when the earthquake hit, and we honored Sean Penn in 2016. And that you look at, Helen Mirren was involved, has been involved with APJ, Demi Moore, Ben Stiller, like. It's been like a huge cast of celebrities that have been part of Artists for Peace and Justice. And
Right.
we don't talk about that enough. But like when they're in town and they're here during TIFF, like that's also an opportunity where they see that they can lend their celebrity to raise funds, to do good. I mean, Ben's been to Haiti many times when I've gone to Haiti as well, Demi as well. And so it's Jackson Brown. So it's been really wonderful to see so much celebrity support.
And it's nice to actually get to know some of these celebrities on a one-on-one basis. Not that you ever get to know anyone really, but I think that, previously I'd worked with a lot of celebrities. I have some very funny stories actually, which I can talk you through. But I think sometimes getting to know them, they turn out to be very real people. I once met Ted Turner, which most people won't
Love
know, but
Ted,
he
yeah.
owns CNN and
Mary Jane Fonda.
Married to Jane Fonda at the time, actually, which was really great. And so they were doing an event, a press event, and they were in Johannesburg, and I never knew who Ted Turner was, of course. And I saw this elderly gentleman in the hotel. The hotel was built on the side of a cliff. And I came up in my little golf cart, because we would all go in golf carts up the cliff. And I saw this elderly man, and I stopped my golf cart and I said, "Listen, old man, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. Do you want a little lift in my golf cart?" Of course, I was very naive, had no idea. I think was working as like a junior salesperson at the time, like one of my first jobs. And he looked at me and he said, "Listen, little girl, I'm very fit and I'm absolutely fine. I know exactly what I'm doing." So I said, "All right, toodaloos." And off I drove off in my golf cart up the hill. And anyway, that afternoon, my boss's boss had said, "Well, we're doing a big press conference. Ted Turner is here." I was like, "Oh, I don't even know who Ted Turner is." Mm-hmm. Anyway, I come to the press conference and there he is with Jane Fonda. Well, did I have to eat some humble pie on that day? So I think it's a good story to know, like, some of these celebrities have beautiful stories and do great things, as well as being, glitz and glamour on the red carpet. They really can make a big difference.
Well, and they're understated. And actually, often like you're in New York and a celebrity will be right beside you and you don't even realize who it is, because the way they appear larger than life on a red carpet is quite different than the way they are sort of in their everyday life. And we need to remember that's their job. And so their job is to, be as grand as they can be, because they have to sell movie tickets. But in everyday life, they don't have to actually, be like that. And so they're, regular people.
It must be very interesting to be a publicist, I think, for one of the celebrities. I think you really kind of learn a lot when it comes to like writing strategy and understanding business for celebrities.
Yeah, I think it would be very challenging. You look at what's happening with Blake Lively and Baldoni right now, and
yes.
I think the way those publicists navigated that, I don't think was the best.
I agree.
And so I think sometimes what probably happens is the publicists think that they're untouchable, and they lose sight of what the objective and the goal is.
And I also think that sometimes people react on emotion, and influence. So they don't just sit down and go, right, what is the strategy? What is the objective? What do we want to achieve? What is the outcome? What are the tools that we're going to use to kind of be the best we can be to make sure that the narrative is correct?
Yeah, 100%.
So they don't really have that perspective. I wanted to ask you, you attend all these red carpets. Like, do you plan your outfits out like months in advance? Who do you work with to create your style and look?
So I do it myself because I really like it. I think Toronto has amazing stylists, but I do it myself. So I do it months in advance. I often will look at runways, and if I can order in advance because I've loved a piece, I will. Often I will map out what I'm going to wear every day. So I have a rolling rack, and I'll map out what I'm wearing during the day, in the evening, so I don't have to think about it, because during TIFF we're so busy that I want to make sure that we're that I don't have to think about what I'm wearing, but it's completely mapped out.
Yes.
So I do start working on it over the summer, and then I have that rolling rack just before. It's usually right after Labor Day weekend. I have everything laid out, and I have it by day, by during the day,
Wow,
by
that's
event.
very organized.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
impressive, I have to tell
Thank you.
I'd love to see the behind the scenes of that.
Yeah, well, maybe you will.
Well, this is so interesting for me because, of course, it's not an area that I have been so exposed to in terms of, the business side of communication. So I've loved hearing everything you've had to say and the
Thank
storytelling
you.
that
Well, you'll
you
have to
told
come
me.
over. You'll have to come over the weekend before.
I'm going to get my rack
Yeah,
of all of
yeah,
my clothes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just, I've got a friend who's a stylist, Kim Appleton. Maybe I should say to her, listen, Kim, pull me 15 outfits.
Yeah, she will do it. She's great. Kim is great. Yeah.
And get me going. But I want them coordinated. Hey, Monday, this time, this day, Tuesday, this time. I want to be in it from a real professional perspective.
I love it.